Great camera angle there as we went into... Oh, what on earth?
Luck. Some people claim it's the only thing holding them back, while others claim it doesn't exist. Is this just survivorship bias? We're gonna run a series of simulations to figure out the true nature of luck and how much it really matters. So, are you ready?
Consider the most recent class of NASA astronauts. From over 18,300 applicants in 2017, only 11 were selected and went on to graduate from the astronaut training program. For each applicant, I randomly generated a skill score out of 100, and I also randomly generated a luck score out of 100. Then I added those numbers together, weighted in the 95:5 ratio to get an overall score. This score represents the selector's judgments, meaning the top 11 by this metric would become astronauts. And I repeated this simulation 1,000 times, representing 1,000 different astronaut selections. And what I found was the astronauts who were picked were very lucky. They had an average luck score of 94.7.
Wow. The results sound cool, but this doesn't seem to match real life at all. I ran the simulations and there's basically no difference between any of the top candidates. So what's going on? Let's map some real numbers. Imagine a deadlift competition. Your skill would be how much weight you can normally lift. And here we see the problem. In the previous simulation, skill was just a random number from 1 to 100. That means that a skill score of 99 is just as likely as a skill score of 50. This isn't true. Looking at real-world data for deadlifts, we clearly see that it's far more likely to be average than it is to be extraordinary. In fact, it isn't symmetrical either. The top athletes lift way more than us mortals can comprehend. Of course, you won't always be able to perform according to your skill. Your luck is the unpredictable variance on the day of the competition. So let's simulate this, and you will see that this small change in data makes all the difference. The average luck to win the competition is 75%. Still pretty lucky, but let's take a closer look. Here are the top 10 candidates. Looking at their win percentages, we can clearly see that luck isn't everything. Another problem is that even though the top candidate has an average luck of 65 when they win, they don't need all of it when they win by a big margin. As long as their luck isn't terrible, they still perform pretty well. The underdogs, though, they need all the luck they can get. And this rarely happens. In fact, there's one person that's never even won once in 1,000 times. But is that really luck? Something I find really cool about this simulation is that there are two rivals that compete for most of the prizes. Although that isn't really the point, it's still cool to see. Another thing to notice is that contrary to Veritasium simulation, we see that the role of luck decreases near the top skill levels. But does that mean average people are more impacted by luck? Well, not exactly. Because if you're average, your exact ranking probably doesn't matter. You're simply part of a bigger skill group, and luck isn't going to magically change that. But hey, it's easy to define skill for deadlifts. How does this work in more complicated situations? How do you even measure skill using only wins and losses? Well, one guy solved this problem for chess. He used past performances to generate a rating. This rating helps predict the outcome of matches between people of various skill levels. We can now use these outcomes to verify that the system works. There's some really nice math behind this, but long story short, the higher your rating, the better you are at chess. And since we have a rating, we can once again use our old simulation here. But that doesn't tell the full story. You see, ELO itself is an exponential scale of skill, and our brains simply can't comprehend it. So let me make it linear. If someone wins twice as often, that should mean they have twice the skill, right? So I invented a new scale to show you the real differences between players. You pretty much have no chance of winning against a grandmaster, just like no human will ever win against the best chess engines. You can't accidentally play the game of your life. It's not going to happen. In reality, if someone is consistently outperforming their rating, it's not because of luck. It's the rating that's outdated. People's skills change with time, and this is what makes sports interesting. In fact, this system has proven to be so successful that it's now widely used for matchmaking across a whole host of sports and video games. But enough about games. What about real life? So we can determine skill when there are clear winners and losers. Good. But what if the skill you want to measure is completely abstract? Well, it turns out that when we have no idea what we're doing, we just take a guess at it. Take the SATs for example. The scores sort of represent intelligence, but there are a huge number of students in a very small range of scores. If you were tasked to pick the top 100 among them, there simply isn't enough difference between the students you're selecting. But this can be fixed because the moment we ask these same students to take tougher specialized exams, we start to see huge differences in their various strengths. If your strengths are invisible to the system, it's the system that's broken, not your luck. To get an accurate picture of someone's abilities, you need to consider a diverse range of indicators. Which indicators? Well, that depends on what you're measuring. Similarly, interviews are notoriously bad at predicting job performance. A bad interviewer only makes this much worse. It's like if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. You wasted your time, and now the fish is sad. Being able to measure the right skill is important to keep things fair. And ultimately, it's tough to do this if we don't give people the opportunity to prove themselves. And maybe that's exactly what luck is. Opportunity. Chance is what we've analyzed so far. It's unpredictable. It's like betting on a dice roll. A structural advantage is when the dice is biased to begin with. This could of course be for a variety of reasons, but how do we simulate this? Imagine you're playing a game of Rocket League against your unemployed friend. They simply have, well, a lot more free time than you. This is a structural inequality. Because of this, even though you used to be equally matched, they eventually became much better than you, simply because they got to play more. Regardless, you win about 25% of your matches. This represents your chance. But what happens if you played a best of 19? We see that the impact of chance gets averaged out over time. Random chance simply isn't very relevant in the long run. This is why top tennis players win barely half their points, but almost all of their matches. Structural advantages, on the other hand, keep compounding. This eventually leads to huge inequalities, but we often forget what caused them in the first place. If our simulations teach us anything, it's that outcomes aren't determined by chance. It's about being in the right environment to become better in the first place. So the next time you miss an open goal, don't blame the wind, blame your parents. Monica wants to open a restaurant. She cooks some food for her friends and guess what? They love it. She even has an investor that wants to fund her. But she says no. She thinks running a restaurant requires a lot of luck. And she simply isn't very lucky. Dude, that was your luck. Luck isn't some magical thing that helps people win. Luck is having the opportunity to participate and a support system that encourages you to get better. The world isn't fair. There'll always be someone luckier. But if you aren't using the opportunities you're provided, the problem isn't luck. The problem is you.